What's going on, YouTube? It is Will here, back again, once again, for another episode of the Gridiron Talk Podcast. We are almost done with the football season, and Shane, this season flew by quick. I can't believe we're already into week 17 with a lot of playoff implications on the line. It feels like just yesterday where me and my buddies were drafting our fantasy football team, and now, the season's over. So, I hope everyone had a great Christmas if you celebrate that. I hope everyone has a great New Year. I know today's New Year's Eve, so probably a lot of people won't be watching this, but there's always, late or tomorrow morning, or maybe people who are not going New Year's partying. But regardless, Shane, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, just getting over my sickness right now. Feel a lot better than I did fucking last week. That was, oh my God, that was terrible. But, feeling good. We got Georgia, Ohio State tonight, baby. Let's go, them dogs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And college football. Obviously, we got a bunch of bowl games today, Monday, because New Year's Eve, New Year's Day is on a Sunday, so they pushed back a day. But there's a lot of good college football bowl games, the Rose Bowl, all that jazz. So let's see where all that goes. But from here, let's talk about some professional football, the NFL. As always, we're going to go over the Thursday night game. The last week we'll be doing this, as this is the last Thursday night game of the year. The Cowboys beat the Texans 27-13. The Cowboys, with this, they stay alive in the NFC East to win the division. They move to 12-4. The Titans are just spiraling out of control. I believe they were 7-3 or 7-4, and they've lost just multiple games in a row. To be fair, they are very injured. Derrick Henry did not play. Brian Tannehill's out for the season. But regardless, the Titans are 7-9, but they are still in the playoff hunt, as next week. Doesn't matter if the Jaguars win this week or not. They win next week and they're in. So, Shane, my first question to you is, I know we said this about a couple of teams, mainly the Broncos, among other teams, but what went wrong with the Titans this year? Because they've won their division, I believe, 2 years in a row. Last year, they were the number one seed in the AFC, actually. And now this year, they're going to finish with a losing record. And, let's be honest, most likely won't make the playoffs. So what do you think went wrong for them this year?
I think they just they've had the same scheme for the past couple of years, and people know they'll give it to Derrick Henry. And, sorry, I just think they need to get a better quarterback, better. Their defense is very underrated, but they just need more weapons on the offense. Like Derrick Henry can't carry the load year after year after year.
Right. And, a lot of people anticipate the Titans would not be as good as they were in the past with A.J. Brown being traded. And they've also been very injured. I know, like I said, Tannehill and Derrick Henry was out this game. Treylon Burks, their rookie receiver, missed a lot of games. Harold Landry, their defensive lineman, is out for the season. But, I've always said this: the good teams adapt, the good teams overcome injuries, and they continue to win games. So with the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys, they're not looking very good. And honestly, like, the Cowboys are 12-4. They're most likely going to finish 13-4. I think they'll beat the Commanders next week. But they just don't look as strong as they have in the past. So what do you think is wrong with the Dallas Cowboys? Like, I personally think it's Dak Prescott, but do you have any other theories on why the Cowboys have kind of been playing like crap lately, or?
No, I agree. I think it's Dak. I think he needs to toughen up, and he needs to play a lot better than he has been. I believe he has like a crazy amount of picks ever since he got back from being injured, and turning the ball over is not a good thing. So I think it's mainly his fault, but everybody else is doing their thing, but he just needs to pick it up.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think the Cowboys have exceeded expectations this year. They traded away Amari Cooper in the offseason, and they didn't really get better. I mean, let's be honest. Like, they stayed mostly the same. They got some pieces on the defensive side of the ball, but the Cowboys did not make a big splash in free agency like the Dolphins did by getting Tyreek Hill and getting Terron Armstead, something like that. The Cowboys really just stayed the same, and they've been overperforming, in my opinion. Like I said, they're 12-4. Most likely will be 13-4. I believe they were 12-5 last year. So if they win next week, they're going to improve from next year. But the Cowboys, to me, in our lifetime, they've always been a regular season team. The Cowboys have never made it to the conference title game in our lifetime, Shane. They have only won, I believe, less than two or three, give or take, playoff games in our lifetime as well. So the Cowboys are just the Cowboys. They always seem to have this great team in the regular season, no matter who it is, if it's with Tony Romo and Des Bryant or in DeMarco Murray and who else do they have? DeMarcus Ware, to now this team with, Dak and CeeDee Lamb and Zeke and Tony Pollard, and Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons. They just can never pull it through. So my last question for you for this game, or for this game is, do you think this is the year that the Cowboys finally make a deep playoff run? Or do you think they're going to continue their ways of coming up short?
I think they're going to lose in the first round no matter who they face. I don't think this team is good enough. And I think they're slightly overrated, to be honest, too. So they definitely exceeded expectations, but I think they're also a little bit overrated.
Right, and I agree with you. I think the Cowboys are a little bit overrated as well. I mean, you can't deny the talent they do have on this team, but Dak Prescott has to stop up if this team wants to make a deep playoff run, which he has proven time and time again that he always collapses in the playoffs. He's only won one playoff game, and that was in his second year. So, but regardless, let's move on to the next game, which is the most interesting game on the schedule this week. We got the Arizona Cardinals versus the Atlanta Falcons. 4-11 Cardinals versus the 5-10 Falcons. This is the bird battle. The Cardinals are on their fourth quarterback of the season, as obviously Kyler Murray's out, Colt McCoy is out, Trace McSorley is not playing because he played terribly against the Buccaneers, and now they're bringing in David Blau. However, and this year, actually, Shane, I don't know if you know this or not, this is the most times a quarterback has started for any team. I believe there's been 40-ish starting quarterbacks since 1990. So a lot of different quarterbacks this year, and the Falcons are no stranger to starting quarterback changes as well. As Marcus Mariota was their starter, he got injured, and now Desmond Ridder is the starter. So obviously, not much to talk about here. But both teams are eliminated from playoff contention. Both teams are just trying to tank. But my question for you, Shane, is how has Desmond Ridder been playing? Do you think he's been playing good, or do you think he's proven that he's not the future for the Falcons, or he is? Or
I think he needs to start next year, and then by this time next year, it'll be a deciding factor if he's the future of that franchise. Because with a lot, with a lot of quarterbacks, it's hard to tell if they're your future within half a season or 4 games. You know what I mean? So
right.
it's really hard to tell really early. So and I feel like people just don't understand that. So give it time, give it another half a year, midway through next year, and then if he starts, and then I think that's when they'll know if he is the future, or if they have to make another change.
Yeah, and the thing with the Cardinals as well is they've been dealing with injuries, as I said, Kyler Murray, and J.J. Watt's actually retiring at the end of the year as well. That was very random. That was out of the blue. I believe he announced that last Saturday or last Sunday, or maybe sometime during the week. I don't remember, but he announced it that he's going to play 2 more games and retire. And honestly, I'm not too surprised. He only signed a 2-year deal with Arizona. And he also had that heart episode. I don't know if you remember that earlier, Shane. He basically had to get his heart shocked, defibrillated or whatnot. So it was very scary. He had a cardiac episode. So I'm not really surprised. But Shane, my last question for you with this game is, where do you rank J.J. Watt all time with defensive players? Top 10, top 5?
Definitely top 10. I mean, you'd have to give me some time to make a whole top 10 list and then decide if he deserves top 5. Because, I mean, prime J.J. Watt, I put in top 3 of all defensive players. But longevity-wise, I put him top 10.
Yeah, and even this year, he's almost got 10 sacks this year, and he's been injured. He was injury prone his whole career, but this year, besides that little cardiac episode, which I believe he may have missed a game or two, or maybe he'd even miss a game. I don't really remember, but he stayed mostly healthy this year, and he's getting older. He still has almost 10 sacks, which is more than a lot of players, and he's kind of up there. He probably could have made the Pro Bowl, honestly, but JJ Watt.
He still puts up, like you said, big numbers, like almost 10 sacks, while being injured his whole career. Like, how many games has he missed throughout his career? Like, he could have an extra like 10 sacks to his resume,
Right.
with all the games that he's missed. So it's crazy.
And with all of these legends retiring in football, I know last year was Big Ben. A couple years ago it was Drew Brees. This year also most likely, I mean, you never know with him, but Tom Brady is looking like he's going to retire. But regardless, like, all these games, all these legends of football, I mean, all these Hall of Famers I just named 4, are going to retire. And it's just sad for the sport. We're losing all these players that me and you grew up with watching and idolizing. So lastly, Shane, who do you think's going to win this game? I know, like I said, it's not a very exciting game. Both of these teams are out of the playoff hunt. The Cardinals are playing a 4th-string quarterback, and the Falcons are playing a 3rd-round rookie. But who do you think's going to win this game?
I think the Falcons are going to win this game. I think it'll be close to, considering like the quarterback situation for both teams. But I think the Falcons are just a more talented team all around. I have the Falcons winning 17-14.
I agree. I think the Falcons are going to win a little bit of a different score, 17-10. This is going to probably be a snoozer, and I'm sorry if you have to watch this game if you live in the area of Arizona or Atlanta where you have to. This is the only game that comes in. But 17-10, Atlanta takes this W. Go ahead, Shane.
All right, on to our next game. We have kind of not the same type of game, but not much going on. We have the Bears, who are 3-12, versus the Lions, who are 7-8. The Lions put themselves in the playoff picture by being one of the hottest teams in the NFL the second half of the year. They've won 6 of 7, and they barely lost to Buffalo during Thanksgiving. The Bears, meanwhile, they have not been good at all this year. The only upside from this year, I would say, is knowing Justin Fields is their future quarterback. They've lost 8 straight games, and it matches the franchise record by the 1978 and 2000 team. My question here for you, Will, is what do you think the Bears need to do this offseason? And then my second question will be, how good do you think this Lions team can be in the future, considering how well they played this year?
Well, the Lions are definitely still in the playoff hunt. The 7th seed for the NFC is going to come down to next week. We got the Commanders, we got the Packers, the Lions, the Seahawks. So those are 4 teams fighting for one spot. And the Packers and the Lions play each other next week. So that matchup very well could decide who was going to sneak in that last playoff spot, which will be interesting to watch. But the future for the Lions looks very bright. We've said this numerous times. The Lions were projected to get better, but they were not projected to be a playoff team. And the fact that they could win up to 9 games this year is a huge success for them. And they can only just keep on going up in the future, keep on drafting on the defensive side of the ball. Ian Hutchinson's a beast. But he's really one of their only few good defensive players. So just keep on adding players on defense. Their offense is really set. And their future looks very, very bright. I can, like I said, easily see them winning the division in a couple of years, maybe even next year, possibly, depending on how the draft and free agency goes. Now, the Bears are in a tricky spot because the Bears, obviously, they need to draft offensive linemen for Justin Fields and weapons as well. But right now, it's looking like they're going to get the 2nd pick in the draft. And it's looking like Will Anderson from Alabama, Shane. I'm sure you've heard of him. He is a beast. He is a monster. And he could easily rejuvenate this team's off defense. But my question for you, Shane, let me just flip the script real quick, is do you think the Bears should draft Will Anderson, assuming he falls to them at 2nd, or do you think they should trade back? Because they don't really need defense. They need offense,
I mean, I wouldn't trade, or I wouldn't pick Will. I'd keep that spot and just draft a lineman. There's going to be a lot of good linemen coming out of Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, like all these like big time Power 5 schools, and you can pick one up really early before someone else takes one. And I'm pretty sure they only have 1 pick in the first round. I'm not 100% sure. But getting an offensive lineman that early Like it may sound dumb, it may sound stupid, the waste of pick, but that's what they really need is offensive linemen. Like you said, their defense is pretty solid.
They got a couple of key pieces. I know Jalen Johnson. I know they traded away Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, but I think their defense is also a work in progress. But I think right now you have to build for Justin Fields. Don't worry about the defense.
I generally think they should focus more defensively in the free agency rather than the draft. And then just because I feel like this draft is going to be a more slept on draft for the offensive standpoint. Outside of the quarterbacks, there's a lot of good quarterbacks, which they obviously already have one, Justin Fields, but you need to build around them, and you have to start with that offensive line, which they don't have. So getting young, good offensive line is just the way to do that.
Right, and let's see. There is a lot of good tackle prospects, like you said, Shane. So, but who do you think is going to win this game in a division matchup in the NFC North?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of obvious. I think it's gonna be the Lions. I don't, that if they make the playoffs, honestly, it's gonna be crazy. I'm honestly rooting for the Lions to get one of the playoff spots, just because I want to see what they can do in the playoffs. Like, who knows? They could go from deep in the playoffs. Who knows? But I have the Lions winning this game 24-3.
I got the Lions winning as well. I'll say 23-10. Their offense is just too good for the Lions, and I think the Bears' offense is not good enough to take advantage of the Lions' poor defense. So next game we got is another divisional matchup, and this game will be interesting to see. It doesn't seem like it is, but for next year it will be. We got the Broncos versus the Chiefs. The Broncos are 4-11. The Chiefs are 12-3. The Broncos finally fired their head coach, Nathaniel Hackett. What a terrible, terrible, disastrous year it has been for the Broncos. I know I've talked about the Broncos we both have been talking about them all year, about how much promise they had and how much they've fallen from grace. But now these last two games will be a big dictation to see where the future lies for the Broncos. I know 2 games is really not a fair assessment to see how good the Broncos can be with a new without their head coach, but regardless, do you think these next 2 games could show if Nathaniel Hackett was the issue, Shane, or do you think, or Russell Wilson, or do you think they need more time to judge that?
I think Hackett was the issue all day. It's very hard to believe that a quarterback of Russell Wilson's, ability just starts sucking out of nowhere, especially at his age. So I think it was coaching all along, if I'm being completely honest with you.
So you think the Broncos are going to be a lot better team these next 2 games?
I generally think they are, because I've talked about this with other teams, mainly the Buccaneers and their coaching with their quarterback. And I think Hackett kind of took away options for Wilson in the offensive game planning, just because it's his first year, but. Russell Wilson, he's one of those quarterbacks that just adapts to every situation. He's a playmaker. So I think you need to let him, go loose with the playbook. And I think this is a good opportunity for Russell Wilson to show that, like, hey, he was never the problem.
Right. And then, with the Chiefs, obviously they're great, like always. I mean, really not too much to say about them. With Jalen Hurts being injured for the Eagles, he's going to be out. He missed last week and this week. It almost has guaranteed Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP, which is good to see, in my opinion. I think someone of his talent definitely deserves a second MVP. Going up there with the greats like obviously Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Peyton Manning, just to name a few who have won multiple MVPs. So my next question for you, Shane, is with Patrick Mahomes most likely winning his second MVP, where does he rank all time in quarterbacks? Would you say top 20?
Right. Top 10.
You think he's top? If he wins another MVP, you think he's top 10 all time of a quarterback?
If he wins if he wins MVP, I'll say top 15. But if he wins a Super Bowl or Super Bowl MVP as well this year, I gotta put him like top 8.
All right, so you think like, top 15?
Top
if he
15
wins an MVP.
Yeah, because how old is he? 20, 25, 26?
26, I believe. Yeah, and he already has 2 MVPs theoretically.
So, yeah, theoretically, if he wins MVP this year, he has two. Yeah, I think he won. Did he win when they won the Super Bowl? Did he win the MVP of that game?
Yes, he's 27
All right.
right now.
Yeah, so I mean, he's just like, and the seasons he's had, the way that he's just been, not even caring, but like changing the game. He's been in the league for what, 5 years now. He's just a different type of breed, and like he's obviously the best quarterback in the game. Like there's no question about it. But if he wins MVP and then goes deep into the playoffs, even wins a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP, you gotta put him at the worst possible situation, like top 10, because he's just what he's accomplished so far and what he's done has been crazy, especially
Right.
at 27.
Yeah, and a lot of people predicted the Chiefs to have a down year with Tyreek Hill being gone, but that obviously hasn't changed. And, another thing about the Chiefs that just shows you how good they are is while the Broncos have had a bad defense or offense, their defense has been great. And last time these two teams played, the Chiefs just embarrassed them. They scored, they destroyed the only thing. It was a close game, but the Chiefs just like destroyed their defense and they embarrassed the only good thing about Denver. So, we could talk. Me and you could talk about Patrick Mahomes all day. I mean, we love him. He's a great player, fun to watch. He's going to be the next. He's like the next big thing in football. Obviously, the Luka Doncic from baseball or basketball. Kylian Mbappe of soccer. Like this, is the next big up and coming star. Obviously. So, who do you think's to win this game, Shane, between two division rivals? Shane?
Oh, my bad. I had the Chiefs winning 34-20. I think the Russell Wilson and the Broncos will play a little bit better, but it's not going to be enough to stop this Chiefs offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think they will get better. The Chiefs or the Broncos. I mean, I apologize, but it doesn't matter because the Chiefs are just so good. I think the Chiefs are going to win 27-17. And the Chiefs are obviously poised for another deep playoff run like they are every single year.
All right, now moving on to our next game, which has big time playoff implications. It's crazy. We have the Dolphins, who are 8-7, versus the Patriots, who are 7-8. With a 4-game losing streak, the Dolphins pretty much squandered their easy path to the playoffs, and now they need to win at least one or possibly both of their last 2 games of the year. Tua Tagovailoa is once again in the concussion protocol, as it looks like he will not be playing this week. Teddy Bridgewater is expected to start for Miami. It's really sad to see what's happened to Tua so far this year, especially how the NFL has handled it. For the Patriots, they've lost 4 or 5, but Miami's collapse opened the door for them to reach the playoffs. But they'll need a lot of stuff to happen in order for that to happen. My question here for you, Will, obviously it's big time playoff implications, but I just wanted to ask you this question just because I want to know your thoughts on it. With how Tua and his concussions have happened so far this year, what are your thoughts on how concussion protocol in the NFL is approached, and how serious do you think the NFL actually takes these concussions?
Before the first one, I don't think they took it seriously enough. I mean, that was just proven with I think it was the Bills game. He got a concussion, and he did the fencing response, which is when your arms lock up, and like kind of like when a referee says the kick is good and he keeps his arms up like that. That's what the fencing response is when your arms can't move. You can't move, like your arms are paralyzed. And everyone saw that he was doing that, and they put him back out on Thursday. Like they put him out on short rest. And some players, like if they were to get injured on a Sunday with an ankle injury or like a hand injury, they won't play on Thursday. So the fact that they set him out on short rest with a concussion, is crazy. Like, that's just a big no-no. So I think after that and the hate that the NFL got from, like Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith and like Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, like all of these reporters, which is justifiably so. I think ever since then, the concussion protocol has gotten better, because he's not playing this game. So I mean, that's a step in the right direction. Would you agree?
100%. As someone who's had concussions, Will, you know this. You know how I am when it comes to mental health. Long term, concussions are really bad for your brain. There was a study done where I believe I believe it was 63%, and this will connect to the concussions. 63% of NFL players who play at least 3 years in the league, after they die, if they donate their brain to science, they show high symptoms of stage 2 to 3 of CTE. Now, for those who don't know what CTE is, it's like a prolonged concussion. It's like a lifelong concussion where you have symptoms. Like one of the symptoms for I believe stage 2 is a high short-term memory loss, anxiety, depression, stuff like that. So it happens mainly in boxers, football players, and hockey players. So it's a really serious thing, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. And I think the NFL needs to get a better grasp of like how to treat concussion protocol.
Right. And another thing about CTE is that, obviously, which is something that is crazy, is that you can't diagnose until after they die, which is just crazy. Like, if you have like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, like or dementia, other brain, I guess, conditions or disorders, you know this when you're living, like, oh, they have Parkinson's or they have dementia, but with CTE, you don't. So it's also just very unfortunate. And multiple pro athletes have had CTE, like Junior Seau, who unfortunately, took his own life. Aaron Hernandez, regardless if, with the whole murder stuff, he had CTE and he took his own life. Chris Benoit, professional wrestler, again, he murdered his family. He also took his own life, and he had signs of CTE. So it's not just in professional or not just in football, Shane, or so also affecting professional wrestlers. So it's almost like a little epidemic. It's just something that's crazy for these athletes in these sports.
And it's also crazy because Vincent Jackson, who just recently died, I believe last year, he didn't do anything bad, obviously. So it's not like CTE turns you into a bad person. I don't want people to think that's what we're saying, but he was a great person, and they studied his brain, and he had, I believe, stage 2 CTE, and he was only, I believe, I want to say 41, 42. So it's a real bad thing.
Right. And then before we continue, the thing with Chris Benoit, the wrestler, is that he had the brain of an 80-year-old man with Alzheimer's, and he was like in his 40s. Like he was early 30s or late 30s, early 40s, which is just insane about how what CTE does to you. But going back to the game, no, I think the Patriots and the Dolphins, this will be a good game only because Tua is not playing. I know he played bad last week, but I think overall Tua's been having a pretty good year. I still think the Dolphins are going to win this game with Teddy Bridgewater. I just do not like the Patriots this year. I think the brand of football they play is very archaic. It's very old. But what do you think, Shane? Who do you think is going to win this game?
No, I agree. I don't like how I like how Bill Belichick plays and runs his team, but I don't like the players that are connected with the offense and defense. I don't think they're a good fit. Which makes it, a kind of boring to watch them play. As for the Dolphins, I agree. I think Tua definitely showed this year that he is their guy. But I still think they win with Teddy Bridgewater. I'm taking Miami 21-17.
Right, and Teddy Bridgewater was a starter for the last couple of years for the Broncos and the Panthers. So let's see what he can do with the Dolphins. I think obviously they're going to win 20-17, similar score. But let's see if Teddy Bridgewater, assuming Tua's out for the rest of the season because Aaron Rodgers thinks he should be, let's see if Tua, or without Tua, if the Dolphins can make the playoffs and sneak in. But another team that's fighting to make the playoffs, the New York Giants, and they are going against the Indianapolis Colts in MetLife at home. The Colts are 4-10-1, and the Giants are 8-6-1. So all the Giants need to do, Shane, is win. If they win, they secure the 6th seed in the NFC, and they make their first playoff appearance since 2016. If they lose, they can still get in. If a bunch of other teams lose, it's very complicated, very convoluted. So if you want to know the whole playoff picture, who has to win, who has to tie, who has to win by this amount or whatnot, check that out on ESPN or whatnot. But this is a very important game for the Giants. The Giants were not projected to be this good at all. Most people at max thought the Giants would win probably 3 or 6 games, give or take. And now the Giants are looking to win their 9th game, have a winning record, and they just look great. You know, Saquon Barkley is having an awesome year. He's a Pro Bowler. Daniel Jones is having a pretty solid year too. I think he's proven that he's the Giants quarterback for at least one more year. And this is all for with all no help for Daniel Jones. He has no help really. So my first question for you, Shane, is what are your thoughts on this Giants team in general?
I think they've definitely exceeded expectations. If you look at one team that, you know, you would be blown away by this year, by how they outperformed themselves, it'd definitely be the Giants.
Yeah, they're just, like you said, outperforming themselves. Saquon Barkley, they've drafted some linemen, and they're just, you know, slowly getting better with that. And they just look like a better team they have in years past. And you have to also thank the coaching for that as well. Brian Dable is a hell of a good coach, and he's exactly what the Giants needed. But the Colts, I believe we've talked about this a lot, but this has just been a disaster year for the Colts. They bring in Matt Ryan. They get rid of Carson Wentz, which in hindsight probably was not the good idea, as the Commanders are a much better team than the Colts. Excuse me. But, you know, they get Matt Ryan. They bench him from Sam Ellinger. He's terrible. They bring back Matt Ryan. They have the Vikings have the biggest comeback in NFL history on them. They bench Matt Ryan. They bring in Nick Foles. Nick Foles looks terrible. Like, this season is just a disaster for the Colts. Do you agree that the Colts should just say screw it and draft a quarterback in the first round? Do you think they should keep on trying to just sign these random quarterbacks in free agency?
Well, they've been doing it since 2016 when Andrew Luck retired. So I think they should definitely draft a new quarterback.
Who do you think they should draft?
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because, you know, there's not really a quarterback, in my opinion, that fits their offense. So, I mean, I can't give you a definite answer, but, you know, maybe they trade up and take Bryce Young. I know there's sources that he won't. If Bryce Young, like, obviously the Texans are probably going to get the first pick of the draft. And I'm pretty sure he's stated that he doesn't want to go to the Texans, which is understandable. So maybe the Colts trade up to try to get Bryce Young if he does declare for the draft this year. Who knows?
Right. If they don't trade up, I've been seeing Will Levis from Kentucky. He's been a big name for them. But, you know, I got not much really to say. The Giants can clinch a playoff berth. All they need to do is win. So give me your predictions for this game, Shane, between the Colts and the Giants.
I mean, there's not really – it's not – in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be a close game. I generally think the Giants are going to smoke the Colts in this game. I'm taking the Giants 28-10, and I think they clinch the playoffs.
I'd be so happy, man. You don't understand the pain I've gone through the last couple of years. You know, being a Giants fan has just been so disappointing, and they just need a win. And I think the Giants are going to win too. I'll think it's a little bit closer, 24-13. I just think Saquon Barkley is going to run all over them. The lack of talent on offense for the Colts is going to finally catch up to them. And I think the Giants get this W 24-13 and again clinch their first playoff berth in 6 years.
Dude, that'll be crazy. That will be crazy. Moving on to our next game, though, another game with big playoff implications, more so for the final division spot of the NFC. We have the Panthers, who are 6-9, versus the Buccaneers, who are 7-8. The Panthers, if they lose to the Bucks on Sunday, they will not win the division. The Buccaneers, if they win, they will. They'll repeat as division champions. It would actually be the first time their franchise has ever done that as well. Sorry. Wow, I lost my train of thought. Carolina Panthers, they've won 4 of their last 6 games to come back to contend for the division crown. After firing their head coach and trading away their best player, they could claim that first NFC South title if they beat Tampa and they beat New Orleans next week. The Panthers are coming off a great offensive performance last week versus the Lions, racking up a franchise record 570 yards, including 320 on the ground. So my question here for you, Will, what do you think the Panthers and the Bucks, for that matter, what's the biggest thing they need to do to pretty much win this game and win their division? Like, obviously, the Panthers need to win next week, but with the victory over the Bucks earlier in the year, the Panthers pretty much have this division locked up if they beat the Bucks in this game. So, what does each team need to do to win this game?
Well, the Bucks, they need to stop the Panthers' running attack, which really now, granted, I didn't really watch the Panthers, but they weren't really relevant before they fired Matt Rule. But I really feel like this is something that got established with Steve Wilkes, the interim head coach, with Deonta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. This is a very underrated rushing attack. I mean, you said it they ran for 300 yards or 200 yards plus. That's insane. Like, that's something that teams like the Eagles don't do that love to run the ball, the Browns. And, the Carolina Panthers have done that, like I said, which is just unheard of. So, the Panthers need to establish their run game. The Bucks, on the contrary, it's been a little bit worse this year, but the Bucks the last couple of years have been known for having a good running defense. So let's see if that trend continues with them, and they're going to need it because the Panthers' rushing attack is criminally underrated. For the Bucks on their offensive side of the ball, Tom Brady needs to get this offense going, and that has been the big thing all year long. Chris Godwin is his favorite target. He needs to have Mike Evans, get him more involved. Mike Evans is a Hall of Fame receiver, and it's crazy to think that statistically his worst seasons have been with Tom Brady at the helm, which is just something unheard of. But realistically, it makes sense considering Jameis Winston is more of that better arm than Tom Brady, more of a risk taker, and Tom Brady's a more conservative thrower. So it's not too shocking, but it is a little bit interesting to say the least. But what do you think each team needs to establish in this game, Shane, to get the win in the NFC South?
I agree with you for the most part. I don't think the problem is Tom Brady. I think Todd Bowles needs to. This is what I noticed, and I've talked about this with this guy at work. He used to. He's actually related to someone that's in the sports world that does all the news coverage stuff on NFL teams. So my theory here is when Bruce Arians was coaching Tampa, the year they won the Super Bowl, the year Tom Brady came in, he let Brady pick his plays, right? Obviously, Tom Brady, he knows, probably the smartest man in history when it comes to football. There's no one smarter than Tom Brady. This year, Todd Bowles has not let Tom Brady call the plays from the huddle. It's been from the sideline, and they'll do 2-minute offenses. And when Brady chooses the play during the 2-minute offenses, it seems that the Buccaneers are playing better, and they're being more productive from the offensive side. So what I think the Bucs need to do, mainly what Todd Bowles needs to do, is stop being so much of a coach and let Tom Brady call the plays from the huddle. I think that will benefit the Buccaneers way more, and I think if they do that, the Buccaneers can become probably the most dangerous team come playoff time if they win.
That would make a lot of sense. Just real quick, because the Buccaneers in the overtime period against the Cardinals, they looked a lot better than they did in regulation. They looked like a lot better. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. And also against the Rams, when they came back against the Rams and got that touchdown, and like you said, it was a 2-minute drill, and they looked great. So that theory might very well be true. But continue.
But yeah, so like, and it's not I'm not like not a lot of people really understand that, like in football, like the coaches do call the plays, but when you're Tom Brady, like why would you have a coach call a play and not Tom Brady? Like I'm pretty sure Tom Brady has been in the NFL longer than Todd Bowles. So why is Todd Bowles calling the plays and not Brady? But for the Panthers, sorry. For the Panthers, run the ball. They're gonna need a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit more defensive help as well to win this game. But I think, don't make any mistakes. Don't let Tom Brady, pick you apart when you're on defense, and then run the ball successfully. If you can't run the ball, you're not gonna score on this Buccaneers defense because they're just too talented. So, but my prediction, I have the Bucs winning 24-14, and I think they clinch the division and win this game. How about you, Will?
Yeah, as much as a Cinderella run that the Panthers have had, with all the drama they've had, like you said, Shane, firing their head coach, trading away their best player, having that QB fiasco with PJ Walker and Baker Mayfield. Among all of that, that they've had a very good season. But I think this is where the Cinderella story ends right here. I think the Buccaneers close out the division. They win 20-17. Not a pretty win, but at the end of the day, a win is a win. So I don't think the Buccaneers or their fans will care as long as they get the win. So let's go on to the next game, which is another one with two teams fighting for dear life for this playoff positioning. We got the Eagles and the Saints. The Eagles are 13-2. The Saints are 6-9. The battle of the backups, for the most part. Andy Dalton was the backup going into the season. Obviously, he is the starter full time. And Gardner Minshew will at least be the starting quarterback for this game. It's not confirmed to see if he's playing next week against the Giants or if Jalen Hurts is coming back. Again, that is unknown. But the Eagles last week with Gardner Minshew, they looked really good, minus the turnovers. And I know that's obviously no football team wants a Baker. I apologize. Turnovers, that's a no-no. But I mean, you can't lie, Shane, that the Eagles offense looked good with Gardner Minshew. They did. Would you agree?
I agree. They did a lot better than I thought they would. I generally didn't think they'd be that high powered with them.
Right. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that Gardner Minshew, or maybe forget, is one of the better backups in the league. I mean, he would be the Jaguars starting quarterback this year if they did not have Trevor Lawrence. Let's be honest. I mean, he is not a bad quarterback in the slightest. And like I said, he's one of the better backups in the league. So this is what you expect in this performance. You step up, and he stepped up well. The Cowboys just have a very good team, and this is what happens. But the Saints last week, talking about them, they kept their season alive by beating the Browns. I think me and you talked about that. Whoever lost was going to be eliminated. And they kept it alive at least for one more week. The season's been very disappointing for the Saints. They've had a couple bright spots like Chris Olave. The defense has been pretty solid as well. But Chris Olave did not play last weekend. But the Saints are going to need a lot of help to make the playoffs. They're going to have Tampa Bay lose out, and then they have to win out. So again, it's going to be a lot of help, but mathematically they can still make it. So Shane, my first question for you is: how long do you think Jalen Hurts should be out for? Do you think they should bench him until the playoffs? Or do you think he should play next week? Because you don't want him to be rusty for the playoffs,
I think if he can play next week, he should be able to play at least one half. Give him at least one half in week 17 just so he can get back into it. Besides that, like Gardner Minshew, throw the rock around,
Right. And I agree. The Eagles, their team is just insane. I know Lane Johnson's also out, but he will be back for the playoffs. But I don't know if you knew this, Shane, but every single player on the Eagles offensive line made the Pro Bowl as an alternate, at least, which is just insane. Like, that is just wild. They are such a deep team, and people do not give them enough credit. We've said numerous times before that the only question mark was Jalen Hurts, and then he would have won MVP if he didn't get hurt. Honestly, let's be honest. And they just look like a great team. And the Saints, on the other hand, like we said, their defense is good, but that I think nowadays in the NFL has been proven the defense no longer wins championships. So, Shane, do you have anything else you want to add before we get into our pick for this game?
No, I mean, besides the defense doesn't win championships, I still go by that statement because the Bucks won their title with their defense. So, but no, Jalen Hurts, he's a dog. There's no other way to put it. He is him. He is a dog.
So all the Eagles need to do to win their division is win this game. I also believe they clinch the number 1 overall seed as well if they win. So it's looking like It's looking like the NFC will go through Philadelphia. Shane, I got the Eagles winning this game by the score of 27-17. I just think the Eagles are just a better team on paper, with or without Jalen Hurts. But what do you think?
I have a similar score. I have them winning 30-17.
All right, we're going to the next game.
All right, on to our next one. We have the Browns who are 6-9 versus the Commanders who are 7-1. With the Browns, they're no longer in the playoff chase, so they're really what they're playing for right now is just to get Deshaun Watson better in tune with the offense. The one thing Cleveland does need to do is they need to win out to match their record from last year, which would be pretty impressive considering they've had, they didn't have Watson the pretty much half the year. So going in, I know we didn't really talk about the Commanders yet, but we'll get into it after I ask you this question, Will. Going into the offseason, what do you think the Browns need to work on? When it comes to free agency, when it comes to drafting, what do you think the Browns need to do?
That's a tough question because, I mean, arguably my question for you is going to be about Jacoby Brissett. Like, where does his future lie? Because you could make a valid argument that the Browns were a better team with Jacoby Brissett and not Deshaun Watson. But another thing here with Deshaun Watson, we've talked about this before too, is that this year was really just like a 2-week free trial. I know it's not really 2 weeks; it's just a figure of speech. You know how you get the little free trial when you get something. That's exactly what this was. Because Deshaun Watson did not even get to practice with the Browns until week 10, I believe, 1 week before his suspension was up. So he didn't even get to develop any chemistry, no OTAs, nothing. And I honestly, I think with the whole rape or sexual assault allegations, that may also have the locker room divided. Like, there might not be any players that really like him, but who's to say? But to focus on this team, I think they need to work on defensive backs because the Browns have been getting lit up on the defensive side of the ball, mainly with the pass. They have just been getting burned, and that is just a big no-no, especially nowadays in the NFL. It's not the old school NFL that our parents used to watch where you could just run the ball. You need to have a good pass defense. So I really feel like that's the big issue. But answer my question with Jacoby Brissett. Where do you think his future lies with the Browns?
I mean, I can see him getting traded to possibly the Colts. He's played for the Colts before. Maybe he goes back there and, starts for them. But, maybe he just turns into a really, really, really good backup. I mean.
But would you agree that it's arguably arguable that they were better with him, not Deshaun Watson?
I would agree that, but, who's going to, like if I gave you if I asked you this, life on the line, who are you taking, Brissett or Deshaun Watson to win you a football game?
I'm probably taking Deshaun Watson.
I'm taking Deshaun Watson. So, you got to look at it from that angle. So, anything can happen in the NFL. So we'll see. But shifting to the Commanders, they've arguably played really well this year, considering what they were supposed to be doing. One really good upside for them is their defense. They're 4th overall. So my question for you, Will, is with how good their defense is, do you think they'll be able to slow down Nick Chubb in this game?
100%. This is not a good matchup for, Nick Chubb. We've talked about their defensive line a lot with Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, Chase Young is finally back. This defensive line is very good, and that's where it all starts with football. Think of it like this. The Buccaneers won the Super Bowl because of their defensive line. If you can have 4 solid guys bringing pressure, you don't have to bring a blitz to pressure the quarterback. And they're also, since they're defensive linemen, they're obviously good at stopping the run. So I think their defense is very good, and this is a very underrated part of their team in general. I don't really feel like people are giving their defense enough credit this year.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. Defensive line, like really good defensive line, is a very underrated factor when it comes to defenses in the NFL. Who do you have winning this game, though, Will?
Carson Wentz, I'm sure he's starting this game. So this could potentially, I'm assuming he's going to start next week, though. That's obviously not confirmed. But, with all things considered, this could be his last 2 games to prove he is an NFL caliber starter. So I think the Commanders are going to win this game 23-17. I just think their defense gives them that slight edge. And players like Brian Robinson Jr., Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, their skill position players are just better overall than the Browns players. But who do you think is going to win this game?
I agree. I have the Commanders winning 24-20. I think it's going to be battle in the trenches, and that's going to be the difference maker in this game.
Next game we got is an AFC South game. And this one's going to be a lot closer than people think between the Jaguars and the Colts. Or the Colts, I apologize. The Texans. The Jaguars are 7-8, and the Texans are 2-12-1. But Jaguars have lost 9 straight games to the Texans, so they have definitely had their number lately. And before last week, their only win was against the Texans' only win was against the Jaguars. So the Jaguars are obviously playing to win the AFC South. This is not a must-win game. This game is actually pointless because they do play the Titans, so they could lose this game and still win the division. But the Texans beat the Titans last week. It was an upset. You actually called it, Shane, so kudos to you. But my question to you, Shane, is assuming that the Jaguars make the playoffs, do you think they could make some noise, or do you think they're just going to be a first-round exit?
I mean, depending who they play, if they face who's in, if they face like the Bengals or if they face the Chiefs or because I don't think did the I'm having a brain fart. Did the Bills clinch the first seed?
Not yet, but they can't play the Bills. They won't be a wild card team. They would play like the Chargers or the Ravens or the Bengals.
Oh, you're right. Wow. I mean, so dumb right now. Wow, you are right. Yeah, I can see them. I don't see them being a first round bye, especially if they win the division. I mean, I feel like. See, Jacksonville's kind of one of those teams that are kind of a streak team. You know what I mean? In my opinion, they can be either really, really good or really bad. So, and I think I called it, or not called it, but I think I mentioned that early in the year too. So depending who they face, depending how they show up to play, they could go deep into the playoffs. They really could.
Yeah, and I guess only time will tell to see if that can happen or not. I mean, it's definitely possible with how they've been playing lately. It's definitely hard to deny that. But like I said, only time will tell. And the Jaguars are definitely one of the most underrated teams. They're scary. Like they are a good team, and like they're not getting enough recognition because of how poor they've been the last couple of years. But you have to respect them. With the Texans, obviously they're looking like they're going to get the first overall pick, most likely drafting a quarterback. Not really much to say. They're just not a very good team. But 2 wins for them is what most people projected them to be at. So I guess they didn't really disappoint anyone this year, right? But who do you think's going to win this game, Shane, between the Jaguars and the Texans?
I have the Jaguars winning 21-7.
I got the Jaguars winning as well, 20-10. I just think they're just a much better team than the Texans, and they really are going to finally snap this losing streak they have against Houston.
All right, on to our next game, which is going to be a pretty interesting off the field antics for this game. The Raiders will start Stidham for the final 2 weeks. They're benching Derek Carr. It has been confirmed Derek Carr wants to be traded. He does not want to be a Raider anymore, which is kind of like I'm gonna save you a question after I finish talking. Will, the change of quarterback is a signal the Raiders are moving on from Derek Carr, looking towards the bigger picture, considering the playoffs are all but out of reach. That's not the case for the 49ers, who have clinched the NFC West and can still move up to the number 3 seed. So my question here for you, Will, is this one's about the 49ers, and then we'll talk about the Raiders after this one, is do you think the 49ers have the best shot to change up the Super Bowl predictions? Because right now, in my opinion, they are the most ageist team in the playoffs. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I honestly think they're going to win the Super Bowl. That might be crazy to some, but I just think this team is too good. I just think they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, they're probably the best overall team, maybe outside of the Eagles. But this team is just scary all around the board. Their defense is on another level, and their offense is just too explosive for some of these defensive players to keep up with. For the Raiders, where do you think Derek Carr's career will end up next year? Do you think he'll stay a Raider? Do you think he'll get traded? Like, what do you think's going on with Derek Carr?
Wow. See, here's the thing. Derek Carr is a very average quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback, but he's not really an all-pro type talent. But the thing is, he's getting paid like one. His contract is huge. So I don't really think the Jets. That's one destination for him. But I don't really think the Raiders can trade him to anybody, considering how big his contract is. It's a very big contract, and no one really wants to pay him. So I can't really answer that because, I mean, would you agree? Like, he's definitely not worth the money he's getting paid, you know?
No, I agree. I mean, if you asked me that, a couple years ago, I would have said, he could be traded anywhere. He's worth the money at the moment, but right now, definitely not.
Right. And with the 49ers, like I said, they're just such a good team on paper. I mean, they're literally on a third-string quarterback who was the last pick of the draft, and they're still playing very good. And
it's not even they're playing bad, but they're dominating.
Right, and there might be a QB controversy. Like, supposedly Jimmy Garoppolo will be back for the playoffs. And then the Trey Lance, like, what do they do with him? If this Purdy kid's better, then there's no reason why they even need Trey Lance. Or, when Jimmy G's back, like, big questions are going to be answered,
And Trey Lance, is coming off an injury, and then next year will be, I believe, his third year, if I'm not mistaken. So, kind of, I wouldn't say wasting his career in, San Francisco, but like, you got to start to think, like, is he going to be part of this team next year? So,
right.
But who do you have winning this game, Will?
The San Francisco is so dominant, and then you also throw in the fact of it they're going to have Jarrett Stidham, who I believe is making his first career start, maybe his second. But just you throw that in as well. It's just not looking good for the 49ers or the Raiders. I apologize. So give me the Raiders to lose this game. I mean, if you pick the Raiders to win this game, you're crazy. Give me the San Francisco to win this game 27-13. All that talent on offense doesn't matter if you don't have a good quarterback distributing the ball.
No, I agree. I have the 49ers winning 30-10. And just a little update for you, Will. I don't know if you've been checking your phone at all, but Will's team is Michigan, and they're in the playoffs right now. They are getting crushed at the moment. They are down 34-16 at the end of the third quarter. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Yikes! That's it is what it is, I guess. But let's go into the next game. We got the Jets and the Seahawks. Both teams are 7-8 here. And Geno Smith has beaten both teams that he used to play for, the Chargers and the Giants. And let's see if Geno can complete his revenge tour and get a double against the Jets. So the Jets and the Seahawks, they both started really hot, and they both have fallen from grace. And this was expected, in my opinion. I don't think anybody really expected both of them to make the playoffs, but they're overachieving, and they can make the playoffs if they win and a couple other teams lose. So my first question for you, Shane, is of these two teams, which one is more likely to make the playoffs? Shane?
Oh, my bad. I was just thinking. I mean, both of these teams have had, I don't want to say a great season, but great season considering what their expectations was. The Geno Smith story, the Jets and how they performed this year with, their quarterback problems. I got to take Seattle, though, just because Geno Smith, he's been really consistent all year, in my opinion. I think they're the most likely to make the playoffs. I mean, they are the only team outside of the first team outside of the bubble for the NFC, where the Jets are behind the Patriots. So, I mean, I got to go with the Seahawks. I see them winning this game as well, just because Geno Smith's just been so consistently good all year.
Do you think the Jets are in the realm of teams that are just a quarterback away, or do you think they're more than just a quarterback away?
I think they're just one good quarterback away. Maybe they go the free agent route this year, or maybe they stick with Mike White. I don't know. The Jets have to figure something out at quarterback this offseason for sure, though.
That's one of their only weaknesses, and both of these teams, the Jets both of these teams also had a good draft too. With Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, and Sauce Gardner for the Jets, and the Seahawks, they just had overall just a very good draft. So I disagree. I don't think the Seahawks are going to win this game. I think the Jets are going to win this game. Give me the Jets winning 17-16, a very defensive, very slow-paced game. But I just really like the Jets' defense. But this will be a very close game. And, whoever loses, I believe, is out of the playoff hunt too. So whoever wins stays alive for at least one more week,
No, I agree. And you mentioned the picks that they had. Sauce Gardner is him. Like, the hype is real around Sauce Gardner. We've talked about it all year. This man is on a different level. In my opinion, he should, be Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's just outstanding. But I'm gonna disagree with you, Will. I have the Seahawks winning this game 27-24. Moving on to our next game. This game, in my opinion, outside of one other game this week, is probably the most intriguing game to watch. We have the Vikings, who are 12-3, versus the Packers, who are 7-8. The Packers 3 weeks ago, you would think, they're gonna bench Aaron Rodgers, they're gonna tank for draft picks. 3 weeks later, they're 7-8. With 3 straight wins, they could reach the playoffs if they win their last 2 games, and either the Commanders lose once or more, or the Giants lose both of their remaining games. The Packers would be eliminated if they lose to the Vikings, or if Detroit beats the Bears, or if the Commanders beat the Browns. So a lot of things have to happen for the Packers in order for them to make the playoffs. But, last week went very well for them. They beat the Lions. They had the other games, the teams that won that they needed them to win. So it's looking good for the Packers, but a lot of stuff still has to happen. The Vikings already clinched the NFC North title. However, they may be 12-3, but they've outscored their opponents only 378-373. Their only win this year, ironically, that was greater than 8 points is over the Packers when they won 23-7. So my question here for you, Will, on the Packers side of the things, do you see the Packers having any shot for the playoffs?
Oh, 100%. I actually think the Packers are going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to win out. I think they're going to beat the Vikings and they're going to beat the Lions next week. Um, but regardless if you don't think they can, it's definitely possible. Like, it is in the realm of possibility. They really control their own destiny. Um, they just need the Commanders to lose once and they have to win out. So very possible for both of those to happen. Well, let's see. But they really have flipped a switch and really have came alive in the second half of the year.
No, I agree. They definitely has been a different team. And my second question for you, Will, is do you think the Vikings are how do I word this? Do you think they're the most likely of teams to be upsetted during the playoffs?
100%. I think the Vikings are good. I don't think they're as overrated as people are saying. Excuse me. But they are a little bit overrated. They're not terrible, but they are overrated. Like, they are not going to make a deep playoff run. But regardless, I think they will get upset. Depends on who they play, obviously. We don't know the schedule, so we can't really say. But out of all the teams that could get upset, they are definitely the top one to get upset, in my opinion. Most likely to.
No, I definitely agree. So it'll be interesting, but who knows? They're really good in short tight games. So that could be an advantage come playoff time. So but who do you have winning this game, Will?
Yeah, I got the Packers winning. Whether you want to call it an upset or not, I got the Packers winning, 23-20. Aaron Rodgers gonna come alive and keep a playoff run or keep a playoff berth available for them. So like I said, but this team has been a second half team. Their defense has been solid all year long. Excuse me, and they're going to stay alive for at least one more week, and hopefully the Commanders lose so they can clinch a spot. But yeah, I got the Packers winning this game. What about you, Shane?
I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Will. I think the Packers' magical run ends right here. I have the Vikings winning this game 21-17.
Let's get into a next game, which is going to be another battle between two close teams, but different conferences, interestingly enough. The Battle of LA, the Chargers and the Rams. Preseason, this game looked really good on paper, but obviously now it's most likely not going to be. The Rams are 5-10. The Chargers are 9-6. The Rams embarrassed the Broncos on Christmas when the Chargers clinched their first playoff berth since 2018. And also, Chargers head coach Brandon Staley faces his former mentor Sean McVay for the first time. So, my first question for you, Shane, is with clinching a playoff berth, do you think the Chargers can make a deep run, or do you think they do you not see that happening? Shane?
Sorry, I keep muting my mic because I keep coughing and I forgot to turn it back on. As for the Chargers, I can see them making like at least a small run in the playoffs, but I don't think it'll be anything like too big.
Joey Bosa should be coming back for the Chargers too this game, which is going to be a huge upgrade for that team. And they need that if they want to make a deep run to the playoffs. And we'll see where if they can make a run. But the Rams have just been disappointing all year round, with Matthew Stafford getting hurt, with Aaron Donald getting hurt, Cooper Kupp getting hurt. They've just been disappointing all year long. They're just waiting for the season to be over and looking forward to next year. And hopefully they can get some draft picks in the later rounds, because obviously they do not have a first-round pick for the next couple of years. But with that being said, Shane, who do you think is going to win the Battle of LA?
I mean, I got the Chargers, man. I think they're gonna have a lot of good momentum heading into the playoffs. So I have the Chargers 27-10.
I agree. I think the Chargers are going to want to build momentum before the playoffs. I got them winning 24-17. The Rams have just been, in my opinion, the most disappointing team in football this year, and they are just looking like they just have looked terrible all year. It's kind of crazy that they embarrassed the Broncos like they did. That was wild. But regardless, I got the Chargers winning 24-17.
All right, on to our Sunday night game. We have a very unique and exciting rivalry game here. We have the Steelers, who are 7-8, versus the Ravens, who are 10-5. The Steelers, they might be eliminated from the postseason before this game even kicks off. And if not, the Ravens are very likely to make them eliminated from the playoffs. The Ravens will host Pittsburgh Sunday night, and Baltimore's already clinched their postseason berth. But this game means more than just playoffs. It's a great rivalry game. I love watching Baltimore versus Pittsburgh games. It's always exciting. For the Steelers even to make the playoffs, they need to win out and have a lot of stuff happen. So it's going to be very unlikely Pittsburgh makes the playoffs. Lamar Jackson is also ruled out again, which means Tyler Huntley will start this game for them. My question here for you, Will, this is regards to Lamar Jackson. Obviously, the Ravens they're going to the playoffs. How impactful do you think this team will be when they have Lamar Jackson back come playoff time?
I can't really say. I mean, Lamar has historically always came up short in the playoffs. Excuse me. But I can't really say. I mean, hopefully this year is different, but I don't really like their chances because it's looking like they're going to play a team like the Bengals or the Bills or the Chiefs, and that's just going to be tough for the Ravens to overcome. If they can jump the Chargers somehow and they can play the Jaguars or the Titans, then that would be a great matchup for them, but I don't see that happening. So unless they pull off an upset in the playoffs, it is not looking good for Lamar Jackson and crew, which could also be his last game as a Raven because he is a free agent. And we'll have to see if they re-sign him or if he signs with another team. So we'll have to see where, again, if that's going to be Lamar's last game as a Baltimore Raven.
No, I definitely agree. And I know we didn't really talk much about the Steelers. You know, they've had a very mid year, as me and Will say. They were very mid so far this year. The one thing they do have going for them, or that they are chasing, is Mike Tomlin's record for at least 500 season. I believe it's going to be his 17th straight season if they finish 500 or better. So, but who do you have winning this game here, Will?
Yeah, actually, like if the Ravens have Lamar playing, I got the Ravens winning all day. But since Lamar is not playing, this gives the Steelers a slight sliver of hope. Kenny Pickett's been mediocre. He's gonna have to step up. George Pickens has been great, but they don't throw the ball to him a lot. But when he's gotten the opportunity, he steps up. So give me the Steelers to win this game 20 to 17. Again, or 20. I'll say 20 to 16. With Lamar. Obviously, the Ravens win this game, no problem. But without Lamar, I think this makes it the Steelers' game to lose. So I think the Steelers are going to win this game.
I actually agree with you, Will. I have the Steelers winning this game in a very close one, 21-20. I think with Lamar Jackson out, it takes out a lot of their offense. So I have the Steelers 21-20.
Let's go into the last game of the week, and wow, this is probably going to be the best game of the year. It's the Bills versus the Bengals. The Bills are 12-3. The Bengals are 11-4. I believe the Bengals clinched the NFC North or AFC North. I apologize. If they beat the Bills, and the Bills clinched the first round bye of the playoffs. If they win and the Chiefs lose, this will be no easy game though. This is going to be a shootout, an offensive masterpiece. Like I said, and the Bengals can still make the top seed too in the AFC. So this is just going to be a great game. Everyone should be watching this game if they can. With the offensive firepower that's on both sides of the ball. The Bengals obviously making the Super Bowl last year. They have successfully improved on their record from last year. Shane, what are your thoughts on this game? Like, are you excited for this game? Do you think this will be a big shootout? Do you think it'll be more defensive? What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a very offensive type of game. I think this could be the game of the year when it's all said and done. And it's going to be very exciting to see these two teams play.
Yeah, I agree. The Bills, they're actually only favored by a 1.5 points. So it is projected by Vegas to be a very very close game. So we'll have to see how close the game actually does fulfill with the spread and all of that. But again, we'll see where this goes. There's really not much to say. This is going to be a great game. If you like offense, you like this game. Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow, Stephon Diggs versus Jamar Chase, T. Higgins versus Gabriel Davis. Like, the offense on this game is insane. If you're a fan of defensive games and just don't even watch this game, don't even turn it on. And also, not to mention all the playoff implications that this game has. There's a lot of stuff going on. So, who do you think is going to win this game, Shane, between arguably the two of the best teams in the NFL and also arguably the most anticipated game of the year?
I'm taking the hot team right now. That's Cincinnati. They're a very good team regardless, but they've just been on a roll. Definitely top 3 hottest teams in the NFL right now. Let me get Cincinnati 42-37 over the Bills.
Oh, my Lord. That's a high-scoring game. If Josh Allen wants to prove to everyone that he is in the same league as Mahomes, same, the Robin to his Batman, he needs to win this game on the road, do something that he could not do, and win a game in Cincinnati. And I think he will. I think Josh Allen wins this game. This is a very important game for the Bills because they have proven 2 years that they can't beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And if they don't want to play them in Arrowhead, they need to win this game. You cannot hope that the Broncos of all teams are going to beat the Chiefs. So give me the Bills to win this game 34-30. I think it'll be a great game. Anyone who can watch this game should watch this game. It'll be exciting, fun to watch, and a close game. So that concludes week 17 of the Gridiron Talk podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope everyone here has a safe new year, a fun new year, and I hope you guys continue to watch not only the NFL games, but the college football games too. Shane, do you have anything else you want to add, man, before we wrap it all up?
No, not really. I'm very excited for the Bengals Bills games, as we said. It's definitely gonna be very fun. Another new update for you, Will. That TCU is still beating Michigan 41-30 as the fourth quarter is about to start. So have fun watching that.
Close game. Coming back.
It's good. You guys still suck. So everyone have a great new year. Stay safe, obviously. Hope you guys had a great Christmas, like we said earlier. Stay healthy. There's a bug going all over the place. Like it's not COVID or anything, but like everybody's sick. So, make sure you're healthy and shit, and make sure you're staying safe out there if you're going out partying tonight. So, but yeah.
Yeah, everyone have a great new year. Don't forget to tune in next week when we have our regular season finale. That should be next week should also be full of good football in the NFL. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family. And again, hope you guys have a great new year, and we'll see you guys next weekend. Thank you guys so much for listening, and stay tuned, guys.